Good morning, class. Today we are working on Unit 3, Lesson 9, Remembering. We are reviewing using data, and here we have a bar graph that we're going to use to answer questions number 1 and 2. Numbers 3 through 8, you'll just be reviewing, multiplying, adding, and subtracting fractions. And then you'll see down here we have 2 fraction boxes to complete, and for some reason they didn't number those, and I'm not really sure why, but they didn't number those 2. And you can go ahead and put an X through Stretch Your Thinking as we get started here. We're going to work through the data together a little bit. We've done this in the past. I know we've practiced it, but I do want to at least talk about the data and the bar graph. It says Perry measured the foot length of 4 friends for a science fair experiment. Then he made a bar graph to display his results. And you can see that he has his friends. He has Ty, Cheyenne, Clara, and Brennan. And he measured their foot length in inches. So when you look at the data on this table, if you go to Ty, you can see that the length of Ty's foot is 8.6 inches. You can see that Cheyenne's foot is 8 inches. You can see that Clara's foot here is 8.2 inches, and you can see that Brennan's foot is right between 8.8 inches and 9 inches, which means that Brennan's foot length is 8.9 inches because it falls right between 8.8 and 9. And now when you look at number 1, it says how much longer is Brennan's foot than Clara's foot. So that tells you number 1 is going to be a subtraction problem. How much longer is Brennan's foot than Clara's foot? So Brennan's foot, we know, is 8.9 inches. And we can see now that Clara's foot is 8.2 inches. And so we need to subtract to find the difference. First thing I do in a decimal problem is bring down my decimal. 9 minus 2 is equal to 7, and 8 minus 8 is equal to 0. So it's 7/10 of an inch longer. So 0.7 inches. And you can go ahead and write that on the line. Number 2 reads, what is the difference between the longest foot and the shortest foot? Well, you have to identify the longest foot, and that's the tallest bar on our bar graph. And the tallest one is Brennan's, which is 8.9. So we know that Brennan's is 8.9, and the shortest is the one that is the shortest bar on our bar graph, and that's 8, and it's Cheyenne's foot is 8. And when we write 8 and we don't have a decimal, you can write 8.0. Okay, first thing we are going to do is figure out, is this going to be an addition problem or a subtraction problem? Well, we're trying to find the difference. So our key word here is difference, right? When we have difference, we're subtracting. First thing we're going to do is bring down our decimal. 9 minus 0 is equal to 9, and 8 minus 8 is equal to 0. So we have 0.9 inches, or 9/10 of an inch difference. So 0.9 inches. In numbers 3 through 8, you can work on those on your own. We've been working on those quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. And just remember, when you're adding and subtracting, make sure you get a common denominator. Now we're going to go ahead and complete one of these fraction boxes together. I just pulled up the first fraction box and made it a little larger so that I'm able to actually write in the fraction box. In the first one, where we can see the less than symbol, we are simply comparing the 2 fractions, and we have 7/12, and we're comparing that to 5/6. Well, we know that we've got to get the same denominator, a common denominator, in order to be able to do that. And so we know that 6, when we look at the denominators, we have 12 and 6, and we know that 6 is a factor of 12, and so I can get 6 to be 12 by multiplying top and bottom by 2. And so 5 times 2 is equal to 10, and 6 times 2 is equal to 12. And now I can compare. I have 7/12, and I'm comparing it to 10/12, and I know that 10/12 is larger than 7/12. In my next box, you can see that I'm adding the 2 fractions, and I've already converted, so I am just going to then just write 7/12, which I know, and I'm going to write plus, and I'm going to pull out my 10/12 that I figured out because I already know the common denominator. 10/12 here is equal to, and then I'm just going to add straight across. 7 plus 10 is equal to 17, and my denominator remains the same. So I have 17/12. And I can see that 17/12 is an improper fraction, and I know that 12 can go into 17 one time without going over. So it's 1, and my remainder is 17 minus 12 is equal to 5 and I write it over my denominator of 12. 1 and 5/12 is your answer there. Then you can move on to the next one, and it's subtraction. In order to create a subtraction problem, we're going to have to change the order here because we know that 5/6 is larger than 7/12, so we can't take 5/6 away from 7/12. We have to take the 7/12 away from 5/6. So what we have when we start on this one is going to be 5/6 minus 7/12. And we can just go ahead and then put in our common denominator. We know that 5/6 is equal to 10/12. So we have 10/12 minus 7/12, and 10 minus 7 is equal to 3/12, and we can reduce this. 3 can go into 3, and 3 can go into 12. 3 can go into 3 one time. 3 can go into 12 4 times. So we are left with 1/4. In our last one, we have multiplication, and so we have 7/12 times 5/6. And we cannot cross simplify here, so we have 7 times 5, which is equal to 35, over 6 times 12, which is equal to 72. So 35 over 72. And there's your fraction box completed from the comparison, addition, subtraction, and multiplication. And you can go ahead and complete the comparison fraction box, which is 4/5 and 2/3 on your own. When you finished your work today, please take a picture, upload it in Teams, and turn it in. Thank you.